Hello everybody, welcome back to Debate Hub. Sam is here with me. I am Chesh, your master debater, and we have returned to this nonsense. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to be a little bit more serious today, you know, as serious as me and Sam get when it comes to whatever we're discussing. But look, I already got him. How you doing? How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. You know, you take it as it comes. So
I saw that you had some music released recently.
I did. Yeah, I released my second album. I guess it's an EP technically, but yeah, a small album of space-themed instrumentals, which I'm quite proud of. I think it's much better than my first album. So
Nice. Well, we are a fan of
yeah.
space here, so I'll make sure that gets linked down below. So be sure to go and check out the Space album from Sam in the description down below. How are you? Are you ready to dive into I guess it's a very personal deconstruction of your own sort of belief system?
Yeah, sure. Why wait?
All right. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start at like how you grew up, or do you want to start at where you are now?
I think the past informs the present. I know that's a very philosophical concept. Yeah, I grew up Catholic. I'm Irish Catholic, actually. Very Irish Catholic, I might add. My dad is an immigrant. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, I grew up in a church. Nothing crazy to begin with. It was just sort of diocesan, which for the uninformed means of a diocese. So no particular flavor of Catholic. It's just kind of your individual parish, which is your church. So yeah, I grew up outside of Detroit. I went to a parish there for many years, and I was brought up in the church. I I went to Catholic school. The church that I went to when I grew up had a K through 8 school attached to it, so I went there for
Classic,
school.
classic.
Yeah, I had religion class for all those years. I ended up though when I was in 7th grade, I transferred to a school called U of D Jesuit. This is a school in inner city Detroit. It's a private school. It kind of looks it's old. It's like 1800s old. It's a sort of strange legacy private Catholic school. I had to wear dress shirt, tie, slacks. If you fucked any of that up, you'd get
Did you
detention.
have to do that in like kindergarten?
No.
Okay.
Well, K through 7 or K through 6, I guess. That first school I went to, it was the dress code wasn't as strict. It was like we had these sort of long sleeve polo shirts and then like khakis.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it wasn't
They gave you
crazy, but
some
high
leeway
school.
when you were like little.
Oh yeah,
That's
high
nice.
school is a bit more complex though because you had the whole fucking insurance agent type look about you. You had to be very kind of dressed for the
Tiny real
nines.
estate agent.
Yeah. Oh my god, absolutely. And we'd still have religion class. We'd go to mass during school. Sometimes we would have to wear a suit coat for that, like a full jacket. I remember we would take bets on which 7th grader would faint during the summer mass because there was no AC in the gym. Um,
Oh, that sounds terrible.
oh yeah, it's a bunch of sweaty ass guys, teenage guys in a gym, like literally
Sardined.
400 or 500 of them.
And
Yeah.
everybody's
Ooh,
like overdressed.
everyone is overdressed. Absolutely.
Oh, that's. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Did you get the
I'm getting
knuckle
better at it.
wrapping too?
No corporal punishment. No corporal punishment. I'm sure the
That's
parents
good.
would have taken issue with that, but we
Some
did have
progress.
uh we did have something called jugs. Now I'm not talking these jugs. I'm talking
Oh yeah.
as an abbreviation for justice under God. It's our version of detention. So I don't know if your school, for high school, if you ever got detention, you probably were able to do homework. Maybe, I don't know. I've heard that people were actually allowed to do homework in other schools. No, 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 no. A jug, you would You'd sit at a desk, you would stare at a wall for 45 minutes, and you would not talk, you would not go on your phone, you would not do work. You just had to sit there in complete silence. And that was what jug. You get double jugged, triple jugged, Saturday jug.
Repent.
Repent. No, exact. I mean, Catholicism at its core is about guilt. Irish Catholicism especially. Holy shit.
Fair, yeah.
But yeah, I went to school there. I had a pretty rough high school experience, and I decided to go on the senior retreat. It's called Kairos, which is, I think, somehow linked to time in Greek or something.
Okay.
Kairos is a very formative experience for me. It sort of put my life into perspective in a way that I had not previously experienced. Um, it changed my life for the better. I got a tattoo of it, and you may recognize this symbol. Now, this is a Jerusalem cross. I did not get it because it was a Jerusalem cross. I got it because it was the Kairos symbol. So whenever I look at it, I think of that experience that changed my life for the better.
Yeah.
Now, I might have to cover it up, considering the fact that it is now a far-right Christo-fascist.
It is evolved over time into...
I wouldn't even say it's evolved. It's just gotten louder.
Just gotten louder in a bad way.
It's been like that for a long time, and I just was not aware. So,
right.
I don't know, maybe I'll make it a waffle.
Just gotta circle around it.
Yeah, circle around it.
Yeah, add a couple more, like, fill the lines in. Yeah, make it a waffle.
I don't know. I will figure something out because it can't stay. Or maybe in the complete fascist takeover of the United States, I can use this to cross over the border. Who knows?
Oh, yeah, you can get it as a get out of jail. Look, no, guys, I'm one of you. I'm one of you. I'm one of you. Christ's love. I hate minorities. Exactly. Let me through. Boom. Don't clip that. Don't clip that. We're out already. How long have we been live? Oh, we didn't even make that 10-minute mark, man.
What is life with that little gallows humor? I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So
it's okay. Elon Musk told us that comedy's legal again. Go on.
Oh, thank God. I was worried I'd be going to jail. Yeah. So that was sort of my Catholic experience for a while. I went on mission trips through my church. Those mission trips is a pretty strong word. They were really just, we're gonna chuck you in Appalachia. You're gonna help people build houses. So that was fun, you know. Oh shit. Yeah. It was, you know, it was just, you know, helping people. It was service work.
Yeah.
You know, I've done many roofs in my day. I've painted many sort of converted trailer homes.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was good, and it felt good, you know, to be of service to people, and that's obviously a pretty big tenet of.
It's nice to be helpful.
Basic Christianity, you know, like Jesus said in the Bible. Obviously, whenever I say Jesus said or Christ says or whatever, it's in reference to the good book. You know, it's you have to help others, treat others as you'd like to be treated, and all that. Obviously, a core tenet of hopefully all religions. But yeah, that was sort of a good piece for me. And up until I was 19, I was Catholic. I didn't have any doubts about that. No ifs, ands, or buts. You know, I was Catholic. My family is Catholic. All my family still is Catholic. I'm the only non-Catholic in my immediate family. And that did change, as you might gather at this point. I decided to take a gap year between high school and college. Because, you know, I didn't want to go immediately into school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to take a year off and kind of, you know, find myself, as all good upper class white kids tend to do. So I sort of signed up for a mission trip, a real one, and it wasn't just Catholic, it was Christian. It was Christian in general.
Yep.
And we would go into Costa Rica, and we would, be of service to folks in a very remote area. And I was like, okay, fuck it. We ball. It sounds good.
Build a house, build a well, get a skill, get a school going. The classic stuff, yep.
I knew nothing about this. I knew nobody there. So, I just kind of shipped out by myself, backpack. And I met with a lot of other Christians who, before that time, I had not really seen the viewpoint of in person.
Okay.
I was Catholic. I interacted with mostly Catholics. That was just the way that it was.
You ran into some Protestants.
I did some dirty fucking Northern Ireland Protestants. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to car bomb you if you're a Protestant.
Oh my god.
Maybe I might. I don't know.
Fucking car bomb reference. Jesus Christ, Sam. Go on.
So, at that point, I was a bit more left leaning. I had a right winger phase in high school. It was bad.
It's just a phase, Mom.
It was. God, Jesus, yeah. That is actually fucking all boys Catholic schools are a swamp breeding ground for right-wing ideologies. And then I made queer friends. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? This is really stupid.
Then the gay agenda got to you.
It did. I kissed a guy, and then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So I went down to Costa Rica, and I was pretty adrift for a bit because we spent a month in San Jose, which is the capital, learning Spanish. Now, I'm not good with Spanish. I'd taken it for 12 years previously. Still didn't really know the language. We went down there, and I was like, I thought we were supposed to be here to, help people, right? Like that was sort of my understanding of this program, right? And we weren't. We were just kind of in a house in San Jose. We would go to essentially school every day to learn Spanish. And I was like, this. I feel like this is more for me than it is for other people, and that sort of realization continued. Now, obviously, that's sort of an obvious conclusion to come from looking back, but at the time, I
went not knowing.
I went not understanding that it was all about me.
Right.
I didn't picture this as a selfish sort of act. And then a month into the program, it was a 3-month program, we went to a place. It was called Trioles. Trioles is a tiny town on the border of Panama and Costa Rica. Dense jungle. I barely had any cell reception. I had to buy minutes and all that shit. I had to use WhatsApp. Very much a non-American experience. And, I stayed in this sort of corrugated steel hut for 2 months in the rainforest. It was really bad.
Sounds like an unpleasant experience, yeah.
Because I did help, I helped processes get done, but it wasn't fulfilling because, I met, the locals. They could have done the jobs that we were doing so much faster.
Right.
So much faster, so much cheaper. And it's like, okay, why are we here? Right? I am not really providing them any real service, right? I'm sort of taking their resources. Now, obviously, they're paid to put us up, but it's like I'm taking their food, I'm sleeping in their beds. And
feels
they're
too
more
performative
than we are.
Yeah,
they're more religious than we are. They would go my host mom would go to church every day. I was like, what the fuck? that's crazy. And it was like Pentecostal. So I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
crazy shit, like tongues.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
speaking in
yeah.
tongues and all that. I'm like, okay. um,
I grew up in a Pentecostal church, yeah.
oh, okay. Great.
I know
You
what you're talking
know.
about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the
um,
speaking in tongues thing. That's like the whole lots of worship music. That's a whole lot
yes.
of like people falling over type
Yes.
stuff.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. A lot
Yeah.
of that.
Very, very spiritually involved. Put it that way.
Yeah. And, I was there with a lot of other Christians. I was the only Catholic, which I did actually get some flack for. Funny enough.
A little bit of hazing.
Yeah, but it's like they're good Christians. The worst they're gonna be is catty, It's like what am I gonna do to them? Um but I remember very specifically there was kind of this turning point for me where our sort of team leads we talked about um homosexuality, right?
Hmm.
And our team leads very chill people. I still think they were in it for what they believed to be the right reasons. They were kind, they were patient with us because I had a couple mental breakdowns on this trip.
Oh yeah. You don't know anybody. You're in a new place. There's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some anxiety.
There were some dark times for me.
Different
But
languages. Yeah.
yeah, and it was just stranger in a strange land, and I remember they asked who here believes that queer people can go to heaven, and half of us raised our hands. Half. I was like, whoa, okay. Like, are you really telling me that just because a guy wants to kiss a guy, he's not making it in,
Hmm.
right? So that kind of got me thinking, right? I was like, okay, well,
And
I'm
you had
I'm
at
not.
this point had some queer friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My girlfriend at the time was bi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I at that point I was pretty chill with it, and I was just thinking, I'm like, why am I here? I don't really deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be in this space with people. I'm taking their time. I'm barely giving anything back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not contributing to this cause. And cause right there, what evangelization could there be? What person on this planet who isn't in an uncontacted tribe has not heard the name Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
So it was just like,
These people were already going to church more than you were, so what work did you feel like you were doing at that point?
right, but nobody else on this trip had that experience that I did.
Mm-hmm.
At least it felt like everyone else was like, oh, it's just so fulfilling, like I gotta do God's work. And it's like, what is God's work to you? Is it
Right.
cosplaying as a fucking poor person? What is why do you feel like this is fulfilling?
We're
Why
foreigners
do you not
taking
have a
people
problem with
jobs.
it?
Like, what are we doing?
Right. Exactly. So I got home
We are the
and
DEI.
yeah, oh my god, yeah. So I got home and I really got to thinking about it, just like more on a micro scale. The Catholic Church, right? My
Mhm.
church at the time. I'm thinking like this is so it's performative, If I want to
Yeah.
have a connection with God, right? Why am I going through someone else? If humans are
Hmm.
fallible, right? Why should I confess my sins to a priest? Why should I go to mass if all of that dogma and that teaching are from people,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, thinking back, if we're looking at history, there are very famous instances of the church not being so great. We're talking crusades, we're talking selling indulgences, we're talking the Avignon popes. Um,
The
Bad
the
times.
relationship between the crown and the priests at the
Oh,
time, or the church throughout England's history, for example.
eh, that's I mean, that's one of many. I mean,
Yeah.
the church has long been a political institution.
Yes.
That's the basis of all schisms in the church.
Yeah.
Right?
Politics.
It masquerades as dogma, but underlying is politics, right? We are potentially going through one right now in the Catholic Church. I don't know why I'm saying we. The Catholic Church is potentially going through a schism, like, currently.
Yeah.
There are people, here, there are people, more conservatively minded people who did not believe that Pope Francis was really the guy, even though that's kind of the whole deal of Catholics, is that the Pope is the guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, depending on who is elected Pope, we could very well see a schism happening in the church in our time.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think about, because it's been a minute since that's really happened. But yeah, I got to think about it. It's like, why follow a set of beliefs I don't entirely believe in? Why am I cherry picking dogma that's been set before me when I can sort of, believe what I want? If the space is blank, and maybe there's a God, maybe there isn't, I don't know. But in that doubt, and in that sort of need to find meaning in my life, right, I can kind of make of it what I want. And there's a sort of peace in that open canvas, I guess, which I didn't have when I was Catholic. I would certainly say I knew a lot more about the cosmos when I was Catholic. I doubted a lot less. And that might have been more comforting, but it didn't feel more fulfilling. It's restrictive. It's... I can understand why people do it. I want to say this right now. If you are Catholic, I don't blame you. Religion in and of itself is not an inherent evil. At least I don't believe. Religion has accomplished good. There are churches that organize, soup drives and whatnot. There are people who go out of their way to live out the gospel, as it were, right? People really do want to live out the message that has been set before us as what is good, right? And religion does provide a structure for that. But when that structure instead becomes political and becomes a hierarchy that can be weaponized and manipulated, which all hierarchies eventually do, that's when you're in trouble, right? Because if the Pope is the mouthpiece of heaven, but he's still a fucking guy, who am I to believe what he says?
Still a fucking guy. Yeah, it's one of those things where the message a little bit is contradicting itself.
Right.
Because you have to subserve yourself to someone less than God to then understand God, but God says, no, you can't do anything against me, so you have to be subservient to God. But there's like this hierarchy that sort of doesn't necessarily work within its own.
Well, it's just for it's for organizational purposes,
right?
There's no like dictation as to why that is. It's so that it's so the church is easier to manage, right? Hell, if I was the head of the church,
it's bureaucracy.
Same thing. It's bureaucracy, exactly. Because you're governing people.
Yes.
Right? You have these bodies of people who you are spreading the good word to, right? You're saying homilies every Sunday. You're collecting money as the liturgy of the Eucharist is being said. Yeah, of course. It's all about power,
Yeah. It has to be.
Yeah.
You can't have massive amounts of people, especially in the time periods that we're talking of the forming of the Catholic Church, to not have some kind of bureaucracy. Even if you were to look at a newly formed, right? Let's take like a newer religion as example. You take like maybe Scientology as one of the younger ones. And Scientology is heavily controlling and heavily bureaucratic, and it's on like the worst end of the scale, because there are a lot of Catholic churches that are fine. There are a lot of Catholic churches that are horrible and incredibly problematic, but you have a spectrum there. Scientology currently doesn't really have that spectrum. It's kind of all just bad right now.
Well, I mean, they haven't had enough time to schism themselves.
And that's part of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, within Catholicism, there were a lot of sects, right? I grew up diocesan, and then when I went to the new school, I became Jesuit.
Right.
Um, I'm sure people might have heard of the Jesuits before. My opinion, they're probably the coolest slash best order of priests. In addition to the typical vows a priest makes, they also take a vow of poverty, meaning they live very austerely. Um, and generally, they're much more worldly than the rest of the orders are. They
Down
kind
to
of
earth.
call it as they see it. They're very down to earth. When I went to school, the Jesuits were all pretty decent folk.
Yeah.
Obviously, not the case. Organization's going to have a lot of rats in it. But dogmatically, purely teaching wise, the Jesuits are one of the more accepting.
But
Like
then you started hanging out with some fucking Protestants, and then
I
boom,
hang out with
faith
some
gone.
Protestants. That's what we'll do to you. No, my folks actually go to a Jesuit church, and the difference between some shit that I've seen in other Catholic churches and the one they're going to right now is frankly wild, because there's this plaque when you walk into this church. It's like in Detroit, and it's like, we are welcoming of everyone regardless of sexuality, race, gender, age. All are welcome in this house of God. You come in, and like the priest is giving this homily. He's like, yeah, women should be priests too. Like, what are we doing about that? And I'm like, all right, your heart's in the right place. I can understand that. I feel like if we distance the people who actually care, it's just gonna do more harm than good.
I think you can probably, like, if a church or a group, let's call it a group, if a group within a hierarchy can take advantage of all the bad things that they can cherry pick out and abuse, then there's no reason why a group couldn't cherry pick all the good things at the same rate and level.
Exactly. I mean, that's why it's biblical interpretation, right? That's what the mass is all about, right? Liturgy, liturgy of the word, right? The homily is sort of the priest's anecdotal interpretation of the scripture that was read on that day.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just the Bible has been so important for so long that there has been every imaginable interpretation on it, right?
Yeah.
And when you sort of take that as gospel, as it were, you're prone to make some pretty nasty judgment calls. Because there are some parts in the Bible that aren't so great.
Yeah.
But obviously that reflects the time it was written, and some of that is even translation error. Right?
Well, and it depends on, like, now you're getting into like Bible literalism, like how literalism. And how like much interpretation can be imposed one way or another. Are you gonna go like the Ken Ham way, or are you gonna go like the more, like, from my understanding, the Jewish interpretation of the Bible is far more lenient about, like, these are fables that you're meant to learn from. You're not supposed to take them literally. So Catholicism kind of existing between point A and point B, depending on where you're going.
There's a joke about Catholicism that Catholics don't actually read the Bible. They just show up for church on Easter and Christmas.
Yeah.
It's
It falls under the basis.
It
falls under the basis. The church originally did not. The Catholic Church, what half of their job was interpreting and reading the Bible to the masses, the people who weren't illiterate at the time and not able to read it themselves.
Well, I mean, the clergy for the majority of the church's lifespan were the people who could fucking read.
Scribes. Yeah.
They were scribes, right? It was more than just interpretation of the gospel. It's, I gotta write a letter for my liege lord. And obviously that changed with Enlightenment, which the church was not a fan of.
Can't imagine why. Knowledge is power.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly it. If you religion can be leveraged to do so much harm because you are marketing something that people can't buy
Mhm.
with you as the only avenue to get that thing, which is eternal life, right?
Right.
Uh, a lot of Christian sects, I would say, have the belief that if you do good here, you'll do good there, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure there are discussions that, like, oh, if you're only being good to go to heaven, is your intention really true, right?
Sure. A little existential, yeah.
A little existentialism, but it's like, you know, I who's telling you how to get there, right? It's
Right.
like, what code of morals are you following? Um,
Yeah. I find that church kind of lets you be a little bit intellectually lazy when it comes to morality because it's just like here's a manual
it's
about
giving you
how
an
to do.
outline.
Yeah, so you don't have to
Yeah,
worry about it. And like
you don't have to worry about the hard questions.
I don't think that's inherently wrong, but you have to be
No.
analytical when you pick what you're going to follow, and if you don't and you just completely throw out your own faculties, like what are you doing? You're just going to be
Well,
equally as culpable regardless.
it has to come down to personal accountability because when
Mm.
you also have a
Hmm.
responsibility to interpret dogma
Yes.
as a person, and you do it without thinking about it.
Hmm.
But you need to understand that if you disagree with something in the Bible or in Catholic dogma, question it.
Yes.
Question it. Question everything, right?
Mhm.
If this beautiful, horrific world is the creation of a loving God, why are we here?
Mhm.
What are these rules that have been supposedly given to us? Ask questions
Yeah.
because therein lies what I believe to be the epicenter of, God, right? It's the why, it's doubt, it's those little spaces that sort of lurk between certainties because God is not certain, right? That's the one thing we do know about God is that we don't know about God,
Right,
right?
right. That is a very strong center point, vocal point, fulcrum, if you will.
Yes, yes.
Now, so would you say, because you kind of like jumped over it a little bit, but would you say did you have a faith crisis, or was it sort of like just a really smooth change for you?
I would say I had a bit of a crisis.
Mm.
I tried to be Catholic for as long as I could, but it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't accept lending myself to that particular way of thinking, to that way of belief. And when I told my mom, she goes to church all the time, I'm like, I don't want to go to mass anymore. She was heartbroken, you know. And I don't want to hurt my family. I love my family. I will still go to mass with them on Christmas and Easter. I obviously don't worship, but I go there because they're my family. I love them. I want to support them and be with them. That's why it's important to me.
Mm.
Um, but no, I kind of had to, blaze my own path. I'm still blazing my own path. I know for a fact that within 10 years my belief system will likely be different than it is now.
Oh, sure.
Um, Yeah, I think that the belief in stable belief is delusion. You know what I mean?
Mm. That's getting into philosophy.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of where I tend to land these days.
I
Is
think
more
that,
philosophical
yeah, I would
than
probably
religious.
elaborate a little bit and say that stability can be fine as long as stability doesn't slip into stagnation. If you're
Yeah.
stagnating, it's a problem. Having like
That's a
a
good stipulation.
steady, yeah, but
Yeah.
I think I agree with you conceptually.
Yeah. I would say I do still believe in a God. I don't know if that's the right word for it. Maybe some unifying force of some kind. I don't know. It's comforting to believe that that is something that might exist.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's there are still remnants of my Catholicism
Oh,
I struggle with guilt over minor things every day,
do
just
you
based
think
on my
that's a little bit
upbringing.
more of a trauma thing, or do you think that's a little bit?
It's both.
Mm,
It's absolutely, it's a yes and. I
yeah.
just, the way that I was raised,
Hmm.
um, in a space that very much emphasized penance has really affected the person that I am today.
Yeah.
Um, and it affects the way that I look at myself and believe the things that I believe. And I think distancing myself from Catholic dogma has been difficult. Um,
Well, especially if you're still spending a lot of time with your family, if you're still like in good
yeah,
relations with your family, you don't even necessarily want to hard cut everything off just because you decide that you don't
no,
believe in a specific dogma or even a specific version of God anymore does not inherently mean you cannot have a healthy relationship with your family.
no,
I think that
exactly.
scares a lot of people.
Yeah, rightfully so. I think
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have, broken with their family because of religious differences, and it is scary because people obviously get a little heated about that shit. Um, you know, I count myself very fortunate that I have the relationship that I do with my family, despite our spiritual differences.
Sure.
I honestly I talk with my mom all the time about spirituality. I
Hmm.
know that sounds fake and stupid, but
Nah, I don't think so.
she's someone I'm comfortable talking about that kind of stuff with. Um,
I think
and
that's a
we know that we have
mistake
different
that
beliefs.
I think that's a mistake that people make when they come out of a religion or they leave a religion. They think that there is no more conversation to be had, or that there is, like, just even discussing some of these ideas or concepts is silly, and they start looking down both on other people as well as their family members, as well as, like, just these ideas and concepts that are very much still well worth exploring. It's just a matter of exploring them in a healthy way as opposed to,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you turn against the entirety, I mean, the Catholic Church is what, 1.4 billion people.
Oh, yeah.
You are not going to find common ground between those people besides maybe I love Jesus. And that's maybe, right?
Maybe.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows?
Right.
It's such a wide and diverse group of people.
Yeah.
And you can distance yourself from a previous religion or belief system while still being able to engage with it and question it. You
Hmm.
should still question the stuff that you're distancing yourself from because you might find answers in a new perspective,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Which
Yeah.
is obviously very hard to do these days when everyone is constantly getting down your throat about
Don't do it on social
everything.
media. Go
Oh my
outside.
God, don't
Touch
do it on
grass.
social media. No, take a walk.
Hmm.
Seriously, go out, take a walk. Don't listen to music. Wherever you're at. It could be in the middle of a concrete jungle ass city like Chicago. It could be a nature trail in Seattle. It could be a desert in Mexico. It doesn't matter. Go outside, look around, um, and try to find the beauty in anything. Anything. If it's not man made, wow, it's pretty amazing that this thing came to be. I wonder how that happened, right? Or if it is
Absolutely.
man-made, wow, how did we figure out how to do this? This is incredible. How many generations did it take to get us to this point?
Aliens.
Like aliens. No, it's just
Mhm.
simple appreciation of the world around you.
Yes.
I mean, it is something I struggle with pretty frequently with the hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
but slowing down is so much more spiritual than a lot of people just really take the time to do. And that's why the mass was originally existed. I saw comments like going to mass is like giving yourself a 30-minute nap. And
Yeah.
it's true. For the first half you can nap, and then the second half you're standing up and kneeling every minute. So it's sort of harder
Gotta
to
be
do
bad
that
for the
then.
knees.
Yes, it is. But yeah, it's time for reflection,
Hmm.
which I think is something we have lost.
Taking 30 minutes a day to just stop and breathe is so. With the grind mindset, just do it. Just take 30 minutes out of your day and just turn everything off and just close your eyes and just 30 minutes of breathing exercises will do you way more good than you even know.
Yeah, and I'm a complete hypocrite. I've been really struggling with it of late, but I know it's something I should really be doing.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
I haven't taken a long walk in a long time, and I really should. Chicago is beautiful this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the beauty of the human mind is the fact that we were able to draw God out of the innate intricacy of the world around us. We can't lose that. Even if you don't
Yeah.
believe in a God, even if you're doubting, even if you aren't religious, there is still a beautiful intricacy in math to the way that things work.
There's a creative aspect to humanity, I think.
Yeah. Even if we are meaningless in the end, we're here.
Meaning is something we made up.
Yeah. Good.
Or even if God made it up for us, it's still it's unto yourself. It's unto you. It's a gift that God gave you, so make of meaning whatever you will.
Exactly. Yeah, no pressure. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
So yeah, so where are you at? Are you would you identify yourself, if you identify yourself, because you might not identify yourself at all, that could be an option. Do you fall under agnosticism? Do you fall under atheism? Do you fall under atheism at all?
I would say I'm a bit of a theist. I would say that
or a deist, I guess.
I suppose it's another name. I would say spiritual is probably the best qualifier that I can put on a survey.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I believe in a sort of unity of all things and a natural beauty to the world, to creation, to action. And I consider myself a bit of an absurdist in that even if we are infinitesimal specks in the nature of the universe, we are still negligible, and that's not quite zero. So
I like to try to help people feel better about that one when people are like, oh my god, we're so small, nothing we do matters, and you kind of get in that nihilist, the bad kind of nihilist headspace. I'm just like,
don't do that.
Yeah, but when you've got still a net of 1, it's still 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that you are able to do things and impress action upon the world, I lifted up a piece of a hamburger. I was eating it earlier.
It tastes good.
It was reasonably fine. It's from yesterday and was sitting in the fridge. But the fact that I'm able to do that at all, right? To enjoy consuming calories.
We invented burger.
We invented burger. Fuck. We invented burger. How is that meaningless? I'm talking with a friend who is hundreds of miles away. I don't know. As minuscule as we may be, as minuscule as our planet may be, as minuscule as our universe may be on some cosmic multiversal scale of ifs and whens, I'm eating this burger, and that for me is enough right now.
You're so much nicer than I am about this kind of stuff. I'm just like, too bad. Given enough time and enough energy, it is inevitable.
Yeah. I don't know. I struggle with being optimistic about shit, especially now.
Fair.
But,
Poor America.
I just need to try to take things in stride. I need to try to be optimistic, even if it's external, even if I'm lying to myself while I'm saying it to you, and deep down I'm terrified of what's happening.
Oh, sure.
That has to be enough.
It
right?
is.
It has to be.
I think it's okay to tell yourself lies sometimes, as long as it's within reason, right? You don't want to delude.
Delusion is powerful.
Yeah.
Delusion is the basis of religion.
You
I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe the Scientologists are right. I doubt it, but maybe.
I'll
But
throw
who knows?
hands.
There's there is a delusion to everything. We are a bunch of carbon atoms deluding ourselves with electronic pulses into thinking, right?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
And we're limited.
Right?
Humans are limited, and we're limited by our biology,
Yes.
by our chemistry, by our experiences, and by our perspectives. And one of the best things we can do, and one of the best things that we've ever done, is one, because we are a social species, we've invented more ways to communicate with each other, which unfortunately we like to use to bully each other because we're bored. Stop being bored.
Well, that and tribalism tends to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I tend to get really folded up in these sort of nitty gritty in my life. I'm definitely a doer. If I'm not doing something, I feel worthless. And I've really been struggling with trying to be as opposed to do, which is like, oh, where's the line between being and doing? Shut the fuck up. I don't know. I'm figuring it out. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. If you take anything away from this rambling, it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. It's okay to be afraid. So long as you are able to look outside and look within yourself and see something beautiful, that's all that matters, right? Because if you can do that, you can see the same thing in other people. And that's the basis of all religion. Truly.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. We're also almost at an hour. How you feeling?
Good. Yeah.
We got so serious.
I know.
I know. What are we gonna do now?
I don't know. I mean, usually we stop like what, halfway through for a question segment, but
Yeah,
I'm
usually we do a
not exactly a guest expert.
yeah, we usually do a Q&A, but there's not a whole ton of questions. There's mostly
Understandable.
just a lot of like comments on what you're saying, agreeing with you, sort of elaborating a little bit. People are complaining about your stale burger.
It's not bad, actually. Choppers in Chicago, pretty good, actually. Pretty good. Got a pretty decent deal going on right now.
Since since Sam's description of his experience, in my opinion, seems to be very, very philosophical based, do you have an elaboration on sort of how you got into a philosophical headspace initially? Because like I don't find that religious dogma lends itself to sort of grander philosophical thinking unless you're following like you're actually studying theology.
Yeah, it's a good point. I would attribute that a lot to my Jesuit upbringing. There's a lot of room for looking into the people who did that kind of stuff. Thomas Aquinas, right? Very, very much a theologian who thought about philosophical ideas.
That is philosophy, yeah. I think about thinking.
I'm thinking about thinking, but with God. Yeah. So having that sort of framework was helpful, I think, because it kind of gave me a bit more mobility than a lot of people might have. And, after the fact, when I felt kind of empty in my faith and, going to mass kind of felt more political and performative than meditative and reflective, which it should be. I was like, this isn't for me. It's not for me anymore. And I need something to fill that gap. Obviously, that something doesn't need to be religion, but it needs to be a system of belief. You can't believe in nothing. I know nihilists are like, oh, I believe in nothing. No, you don't.
Yeah, that's
No, you don't. Believing in nothing is believing in something. So, yeah, it was just trying to fill this space where Catholicism once was. And I think I ended up finding something a bit bigger than that because it was for me, right? It wasn't sort of I guess it wasn't. It was kind of a module religion versus a sort of homebrew,
More
sort of flexible, personal belief
I was
system.
playing D&D and then I switched to Pathfinder.
Yeah, Pathfinder 2E is the Protestantism to D&D is Catholicism. Don't quote me on that because it's incorrect in many ways.
Do you find that, like, you sort of picked out the stuff that you liked about Catholicism, decided to hang on to that, and then just took the stuff you didn't like out of it and sort of explore to find other principles and beliefs that you were then like, I'm going to keep adopting these as you kind of came across them?
Yeah, absolutely I did. I got to start somewhere. I didn't... It's not like I hated all of Catholicism, love your neighbor as yourself. Pretty straight fire, dude. What?
Woke.
Yeah, woke liberal cuck, Jesus Christ. No, yeah, of course I kept stuff. I'm not ashamed to say that. I mean, if religion was all completely bad, one, we wouldn't be having this discussion, I don't think. And two, less people would probably believe in it if it was all just kill people who are gay.
Right. I think there's a lot of people.
Interpretation.
I think there's a lot of individuals that don't fall under that heading. They might still attribute their belief system to whatever system they're attributing to, but they personally aren't going to start running around killing people. There are probably too many who do feel that way, but it's certainly not the majority.
Far too many. I feel like we've interpreted that good book a little too much, and it's incestuous at this point. But that's my opinion.
Fair enough.
I took a bit from Buddhism, some from more sort of secular philosophies. I read a short story by Andy Weir called "The Egg," which is if you haven't read it, phenomenal short story. That essentially, I don't believe this per se, but it essentially details a man who dies and goes to the afterlife, as it were, and he meets a godlike figure. And he's like, okay, what was it all for? What's the deal? And he's like, oh, okay, well, here's the deal. You have lived through the lives of every single person who has lived or ever will live. And this universe that I've built for you is an egg to eventually create another being like me, who can then create their own universe. And I was like, that is so beautiful and so connective, right? Because if we, obviously there is the belief of we are all made in the image and likeness of God. But to hear it explained like that, right, was powerful to me. I don't necessarily believe that the universe is an egg, that we may become God in another place and create another universe. Obviously that's science fiction, but the concept of that, right, living the experience of every person, is something I think is I do believe in that.
It's a very classic, like, Bender from Futurama having a society living on his body. And,
exactly. Kind of removing yourself a little from the equation and looking down at it, like obvious, like all these, like the trope of like the alien who comes to Earth. It's like, your backwards people is too warlike. We've solved peace many eons ago, and you are still fighting with your fire guns.
We'll have to talk about sci-fi someday, because I have beef with sci-fi.
You have beef with sci-fi?
Beef, pure beef.
Okay.
The disrespect. The disrespect on humanity's name with how absolutely absurdly savage we are makes me angry.
Have you seen World's End?
Yes.
I like the kind of twist they pull at the end of that with that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's like, damn, indomitable human spirit, baby.
Let's go.
That's pretty sick.
That's the right kind of spice.
Yeah.
I think... Oh, so there is a question from the chat from Sar that's asking, if I had a question at all, I'd ask if Sam believes in spirits, since he said he's spiritual, or do you mean it more of an analogy? And I think that's 2 questions, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, fair enough.
If ghosts are real, okay. If they're something we just can't scientifically understand yet, some sort of temporal sort of shunt after a person is dead and sort of ascends into a 4th plane or whatever, okay. I don't know. Maybe. I have
That's
no
fair.
answers. And in terms of belief, I certainly believe that there's some energy to people, to things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I believe in ghosts in as traditional of a sense, but I think there's a connective tissue between things that we can't see, that we can feel. I know I'm gonna bring up sci-fi again. I fucking love Interstellar, and forever I
Mm.
hated that the whole twist, like, oh, love is like this gravity like thing that transcends dimension. I'm like, that's stupid shit. But the more I watch that movie, I'm like, nah, this shit rocks, dude.
Give me the
Hell
cheese.
yeah.
Give me the
Give me
cheese.
No, dude, love is great. Love is a force, Like fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that, as cornball as it sounds. Why the hell not? What purpose does it serve me to doubt that? Right? If
Fair.
love is powerful and it draws us together across time, space, and it bends us into these black holes of emotion, that's gorgeous. And you know what? Not believing in that would make my life a little bit colder. So I am going to be as utilitarian as possible. I'm gonna snatch that right out of the jaws of Interstellar. And I'm gonna live it. Who cares? That's awesome. That's so sick. So
Yeah, I'm here for that.
Roundabout, yeah, fuck yeah, spirits are real. Absolutely.
I definitely follow along the lines of energy is very much a thing. You can walk into a room and feel the vibe. So there is definitely interpretive energy that can exist in one way or another. Do I think you could read somebody's aura? Not necessarily in the way that some people interpret it, but I think you can definitely read somebody's vibe.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think there are some people who are better at it than others. That's for sure. So, take that as you will.
Yeah, I think it's as natural force to the universe as gravity.
I think there's a lot of
and
people...
I don't think it's exclusive to us. I don't think it's exclusive to people.
I don't think so either. I think you can go into, like, if you travel, right? If you travel to another country and you don't speak a lick of the language, like the spoken verbal language of that area, you can still interpret some vibe of what's going on. You're going to be able to tell when somebody's mad at you. You're going to be able to tell when somebody's trying to be helpful and earnest. You're going to be able to, you can tell those things if you stop listening just to the words and you actually just start interpreting everything that's going on. Humans can communicate actually relatively easy without literal words. And that's, incredibly powerful. And the fact that humans can do it across the planet with each other is pretty fucking insane. And so if you just take that and you just decide you want to take that a little further and a little further, and you start looking at, like, we're going to add in body language, we're going to add in the vibe of a room, we're going to add in, like, lots of people don't know how to express. There are lots of times people will be like, oh, I've got a vibe about this person, but I don't know why. Something about this person is, like, throwing me off. And they won't know why it is, they won't be able to explain it, and that gut feeling will be 100% right, but all that is you not knowing how to express or identify what you're interpreting. Not that it doesn't exist. That's just my thoughts on it. Not that they asked me, sorry.
Absolutely.
Womp womp. And then they also said I would offer a joke question. What do you guys consider the limits of a burger? Is it a double down burger? Is it a submarine sandwich a burger? And is a soup a burger? We're talking about semantics now.
This is definitely your field. My roommate came up with a system for this. Right, there's, like, obviously there's the one plane is an open-faced sandwich, 2 is a sandwich, 3 is a submarine, 4 is I believe he categorizes it as a burrito or maybe a cannoli. 5 is
like fully closed. Like a panzerotti?
Not 5 is not fully closed.
Oh,
5
okay.
is one side is open.
Oh, two sides open, one side open.
That might
okay.
be the burrito, actually.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
probably
6 is a ravioli. As
Decent system.
for everything else, there are soup and there are salad, and that is it. Anything can apparently be ascribed in those terms. And he was right. Everything I threw at him, he was like, "No, it's this." I'm like, oh,
That's a
shit.
pretty good system.
It is that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you cannot throw... I think you cannot use semantics in that way because culinary semantics are nonsense.
Oh my God, I don't cook. I ordered this burger out, man.
It's the difference between scientific language and vibes. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science inside of making food and in culinary work.
Well,
However,
I don't.
whatever
We're being semantic here.
in what everything is called changes depending on where you live. And so because where you live and the type of thing you're doing is so different, the semantics don't mean anything. Does it taste good? Like calling like is a tomato a fruit?
This is pop to me.
Yeah.
I've never called that soda in my life. And
Soda
much less
pop.
Coke. Actually,
Fizzy drink.
Coke Zero. But
Yeah.
I'm not calling all fizzy drinks Coke because
Right.
I don't live in Texas.
Exactly.
Which is
exactly.
Very fortunate at the moment. But yeah.
All right.
Is that
We'll wrap up there. Again, listen, you want to discuss semantics? That's a whole scenario. I have a whole
with
thing.
You, I do not want to discuss semantics.
I have a whole thing. I will fight this to the death.
I got a headache at work already. I don't need another one when I come home.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing with us your journey and your experiences. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully somebody fucking learned something while they were here. Fucking educate yourselves, you goombas.
I literally raved for an hour, so if you took something from that, great. I'm happy.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Sam's stuff is going to be linked down in the description below. We will be back on... Wednesday, Dapper has a sub special, so we're going to be over on Dapper's channel. But Sly is going to come on, and he's going to be talking about his deconversion on the 22nd. And that's an intense story. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get on it here. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.